Hello all, Ryan Taylor here. Hope you are keeping safe and well. Just wanted to start with two very quick apologies. One for this dodgy looking hat. Rocking a bit of a windswept look at the moment. I've just been out walking my dog. So yeah, the wind's blown my hair to bits. But two, the lack of videos on my channel. Obviously, I started the window like a house on fire in terms of the YouTube content, but it's kind of slowed up in the past week or so. Not really uploaded. There are reasons for that. I'm moving house at the moment, so my office is currently out of action on some evenings because we're packing stuff away and things like that. But also, I'm kind of balancing my free time outside of the transfer window, which can be very demanding given that, things change very quickly, developments happen fast. As a journalist, you've really got to keep your finger on the pulse because, you may not be working, but a big story could break in the evening or, when you're having dinner, when you've clocked off for the day, and you've got to, really dig into that and start putting out messages to sources and things like that if you want to try and get the information on some of these stories, which, if we're out and about with family and friends and things like that, you can't always do. But a lot has happened in the past few days, and I really wanted to prioritise a video tonight on the basis of the fact, I haven't uploaded in a little while. There's a lot to talk about, lots of things moving very quickly with every day that goes by. Obviously, the two main stories that have dominated the headlines in the past few days are the two Brazilians, Richarlison and Rafinha. Two fantastic players, obviously, but two players that look set for very big moves. I also wanted to touch on Arnaut Danjuma and his situation with West Ham. Leeds fans, I know you've been pressing me for updates on Mohamed Kamara, so there's some stuff on the Red Bull Salzburg midfielder as well, although not too many big developments of note to talk about. Also some Forest and some Burnley. But I really wanted to start with Spurs, who are obviously, leading the way in terms of exciting summer transfer business. Fabio Paratici and Daniel Levy have really sort of jumped into the market with 2 feet. They're really committed to, as we've talked about, at length in these videos, about strengthening Antonio Conte's squad and showing that show of commitment to the project, obviously, once Champions League football has been secured, which was, something that was affirmed on the final day of the season following the thrashing of Norwich. Tottenham really decided they wanted to have a go at it this season. They really wanted to throw the money in. There's obviously been the injection of cash from the owners to spend. But as we understand it, deals for Clement Lenglet, Richarlison and Jed Spence are now close. I really wanted to start with the Richarlison deal. Obviously, it's well documented how this has kind of materialised in the past few days, but there's been some really kind of interesting elements to the saga, which obviously hasn't lasted too long. Tottenham's interest in Richarlison is obviously fairly long-standing in the past few months. It was well documented earlier in the window that they were interested. But they have now struck a £60 million deal with Everton, which was agreed yesterday. So it's £50 million up front and £10 million in add-ons. And we're going to start by talking about kind of how that came about, really. So Daniel Levy and Bill Kenwright have a very strong professional relationship, really. They together worked on the deal for Dele Alli on deadline day in January at, I think it was Tottenham's or Everton's London headquarters. But this time around, at the start of the week, they met in Mayfair for a dinner, a bit of food together. And the understanding is that Daniel Levy had the incentive of really upping the ante for Richarlison. There was also interest in Anthony Gordon. So they dined at Scott's Restaurant in Mayfair, where kind of basic discussions started to really gather pace with Richarlison. So Tottenham indicated to Everton that they were willing to table a substantial offer. The key point here really is that Everton were kind of under the impression that, not under the impression, but they wanted to push through a sale for Richarlison before the overturn of the new financial year in terms of the financial fair play regulations. It's been kind of well documented that Everton are, kind of struggled with that because of their excessive spending. in the past few years. You know, we saw last summer they didn't really have much money to spend. It was only Asmir Begovic, Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend that arrived. Hasn't really been too much cash generated through player sales either over the past few years. Obviously, Lucas Digne sort of changed that in January when he joined Aston Villa. But in terms of Tottenham, they were certainly interested in not only Richarlison but Anthony Gordon. There's been talk that a double package proposal was rejected by Everton at the start of the week. Obviously, Anthony Gordon is a player that is, you know, of such huge value to Everton. Not only is he an academy star, but it's pretty clear that he's going to go on to become a top player. He was a really key part of Everton's survival bid and was one of the first names under Frank Lampard in terms of on the team sheet. So Everton weren't really entertaining the prospect of selling him as part of the package. So they made that clear to Tottenham that, you know, they wouldn't be willing to include Gordon, and that any deal for Richarlison would have to be straight cash. Obviously, there's been negotiations over the sale of Harry Winks to Everton. That deal is still kind of in the balance at the moment. Everton also hold an interest in Steven Bergwijn. There was talk from the Telegraph that Tottenham made an offer including Bergwijn for Richarlison. But the agreement in place now, which will see Richarlison join Tottenham, is straight cash. 50 million plus add-ons. Tottenham are understood to have a bid rejected around about 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. That was 40 million plus add-ons, which would, you know, only generate 50 million pounds for Everton, which is, of course, technically what they paid Watford to sign the player in the summer of 2018 from Watford. So that wouldn't have made much sense. And, you know, given Levy's discussions with Ken Wright earlier in the week, you know, it was pretty clear, certainly from Everton's point of view, that they felt Tottenham were going to table, you know, a very suitable and appealing offer, certainly in the region of £60 million. So there was said to be, you know, according to reports, frustration upon Everton's part that opening offer fell quite short of their initial valuation that was made clear to Spurs. Anyway, you know, Spurs tried their luck, but of course failed with that, and then quickly agreed the move for Richarlison in the early hours of Thursday morning. There's also been talk from Fabrizio Romano that Chelsea tried to hijack the deal. We know Chelsea were interested alongside Arsenal. Richarlison is understood to have told Frank Lampard that he wanted to pursue a new challenge while he just helped Everton to survival. It was something he talked about while away on international duty in Japan with Brazil. He made it clear kind of he was looking to pursue a new challenge, but he really didn't want to risk tarnishing the reputation he's built amongst Everton's fan base. Obviously, he's kind of an idol at Goodison Park. There was a tweet last night from one Everton fan that said she told her son that her favourite player was leaving. He was in tears. Richarlison replied as well, saying, don't be sad, be happy, or something along those lines, which, you know, pretty much made it clear that he was indeed off. And, you know, as far as we understand it, Spurs sent delegates to South America to conduct a medical on Richarlison, who has been back in his homeland, enjoying some relaxation post-international break. But now he does look set to fly to London to join up with his new teammates once the move has been officially confirmed. I think Spurs are preparing an announcement in due course. Just from, you know, my perspective, I think Richarlison's a little bit of a weird fit for Spurs, but at the same time, it's the kind of signing that really does show, you know, they're really flexing their muscles in the market, because on paper, I think Heung-min Son, Harry Kane and Kulusevski will be the first choice front three. But Richarlison will provide that cover and competition. Obviously, we know Spurs, if they want to challenge on all fronts, will have to compete in the Champions League as well as the cup competitions. It's a long old season, of course. You know, we've seen in the past injuries to Harry Kane have really disrupted Tottenham seasons. He's had, you know, that hamstring injury that he suffered against Southampton in January 2020, I think it was, just before COVID. He's also had ankle problems. So, you know, injuries do play a part over the course of a long season, and Richarlison is, you know, a top quality addition that really does kind of showcase the ambition Tottenham are willing to show. But he may not be the only new arrival, because a loan deal was understood to be close with Barcelona for Clement Lenglet. I think he's a player I've talked about on here before, because he was floated to a number of clubs by Barcelona earlier in the window, including Arsenal and Juventus. He's a player that Conte has looked at before during his time at Inter Milan. And I've seen kind of a lot of kind of criticism over this deal, really. But I think Lenglet could prove to be a really good acquisition for Spurs, particularly given, you know, they don't have to sign him permanently. And next summer, the likes of Josko Gvardiol of RB Leipzig could be available. Same with Alessandro Bastoni. You know, I've been looking at the left centre-back market, and outside of Bastoni, he is obviously Tottenham's top target. They couldn't attain him because he decided he wanted to stay with Inter Milan. He's going to honour his contract. Outside of him, there wasn't many great options out there for Spurs. Obviously, Sven Botman was one, Gvardiol as well, but he looks set to sign a new Leipzig contract. Leipzig were also demanding sort of upwards of £70 million for him. So I think Lenglet could prove a snip, really. He's vastly experienced. He's played Champions League football with both Sevilla and Barcelona. He was absolutely immense during his time at Sevilla, which saw Barca trigger his release clause. Obviously, he's fallen out of favour now under Xavi, who is going to remould his defence around Araujo, and Andreas Christensen, who's arrived from Chelsea, has also talked they could move for Jules Koundé. But, you know, Lenglet's got a point to prove ahead of the World Cup with France and Qatar later this year. You know, if he was to really shine at Tottenham, there's no reason why he can't force a late assault on Didier Deschamps' his France squad. So I do think, you know, signing that player that's kind of lost his way a bit does really suit Conte. He's got a habit of turning water into wine. You know, we saw what he done to the likes of Victor Moses and Ashley Young at Inter Milan. Obviously, Moses at Chelsea. You know, he's really got the ability to get the best from these players and maximise their talent and potential by, you know, demanding the maximum and those standards that are set on the training field. You know, he demands 110%. I think with someone like Lenglet, who is clearly an experienced and established defender, I think that could prove a really good deal for Spurs. Although, you know, I don't think many people are of that same opinion. Jed Spence I wrote about this morning, but things seem to be moving quickly on that front. It looks like Spurs are in advanced negotiations with Middlesbrough to close that deal. There's never really been any doubt that Spence will move to North London. Obviously, they've got the lure of Champions League football. Forest, who we're going to come on to in a bit, are pursuing Nico Williams of Liverpool. Middlesbrough have been a bit frustrated with Tottenham in terms of their approach to negotiations. Their opening offer was around £10 million. But obviously Borough are looking for slightly more than that. I think £15 million would be enough to get the deal done, even though I did initially report 20 million earlier in the window. But I do expect Spence to make the move to Tottenham in due course. And if you look at that from the outside, Perisic, Forster, Basuma, Lenglet, Richarlison, Spence, all signed before all potentially signed, I should say, before the pre-season tour of South Korea. That is phenomenal business from Spurs. I don't care what anyone says. You know, I know some of those signings, there's question marks around whether they can do it at the top level, but an important point to point out is that, you know, Tottenham are building a team. They're building a well-oiled squad that are going to be capable of, really launching certainly, I think they'll secure top four. I think that will be bread and butter for Spurs next season. But, you know, they're certainly knocking on the door of Liverpool and City, given how strongly they finished the season last year. You know, I know Arsenal fans and other clubs will not agree with that, but I personally think all of these signings are right for Tottenham. And, you know, given how long we've got left in the window, there's no reason why they won't go after other players. Maybe an attacking midfielder that gives that option to switch to a 3-5-2 with a creative attacking midfielder, a 10, a Christian Eriksen, someone of that mould. So, yeah, I think Spurs are really sort of showing their statement a statement of intent to the rest of the Premier League that they're not going to mess about. You know, if you look at a club like Manchester United, have really dilly-dallied around with Frankie de Jong and not made any progress really other than Tyrell Malacia on other signings. I think Spurs have blown everyone away and really set that bar high that, you know, they're not going to mess around. They've moved quickly to get deals done. They've not, you know, mucked about with negotiations. So, yeah, that's kind of my impression of Tottenham. Obviously, there was tentative interest in Rafinha as well. So, let's move on to Rafinha. You know, what a saga this is turning into, really. So, earlier in the week, obviously, the Athletic's David Ornstein bang on again with the developments that he broke, that Chelsea had struck a £60 million agreement with Leeds for the winger. Obviously, those that follow me will know that I was reporting last Saturday that Arsenal were set to try again. They had an opening bid worth, I think, 30 million plus 10 million in add-ons rejected by Leeds. Fell well short of their valuation of the player. They were expected to try again, but they just haven't at the moment because of the speed of Chelsea's bid, which immediately satisfied Leeds' valuation of the player. But it's now quite clear, on the basis of what's been reported not only in Spain but England, that Rafinha is seemingly holding out for a move to Barcelona. We know he's agreed personal terms many months ago. Obviously, he's represented by Deco as well, who played for Barcelona. He also played for Chelsea as well, but the preferred destination of choice is Barcelona. Ousmane Dembele's contract situation maybe affects things, but so does Barcelona's financial situation, their climate. It's a very difficult climate at the moment because obviously they don't have much cash to spend. But if the De Jong deal was to go through with Manchester United, that could really free up some leverage to push for Rafinha, which is obviously bad news for Chelsea. So Deco met with Barcelona. He was pictured leaving Barcelona's offices on Wednesday. He's understood to have met with Barca Chiefs Rafa Yuste, Mateu Alemany, who is the sporting director, I believe, and Emrak Masip, who were really driving Barcelona's interest in Rafinha. And they are thought to have indicated that they were willing to hijack Barcelona's bid. Deco is believed to have met with Chelsea today to make it clear that they're kind of hanging on for Barcelona's interest to see if they make a move. Rafinha is yet to discuss personal terms with Chelsea, although if the Barcelona move does not materialise, they are expected to win the race for Rafinha. So at the moment, it really does look like Rafinha is holding out for a move to Catalonia. And from a Leeds perspective, I just wanted to talk about, you know, the information I have on the Arsenal situation with Rafinha. Now, from the get-go, the kind of information that I was receiving from Arsenal was that they felt Leeds were looking to encourage a bidding war, and they didn't really want to get involved in that. They were simply interested in signing Rafinha, and they wanted to pursue a straightforward deal. Obviously, they were the first club to present a formal offer to Leeds. And, you know, although there was interest from Spurs and Chelsea, it looked like they were in the driving seat for Rafinha, but that just hasn't happened really with the developments with Barcelona. Leeds are obviously looking at reinforcements already. Charles de Ketelaere of Club Brugge is one of the top attacking targets, but he's more a number 10. There's Otavio of Porto who is also of interest. I believe a bid has been rejected by the Portuguese giants for him. Cody Gakpo, who is another player Arsenal will look at if they don't get Rafinha. He's a player they've made inquiries for. The same applies to Tottenham. There was also a bit of interest in Nantes, Moses Simon, who's a player who looks set to join Nice now. But Victor Orta's got a few plates spinning, so to speak. Obviously, we're going to come on to Leeds, but the expectancy is that Rafinha will move on. You know, we look at what he done last season in the Premier League with 11 Premier League goals. He looks on course to cement his place in Brazil's World Cup squad. So I don't know whether Arsenal will try again now, because simply they would have to gazump not only Chelsea's offer for the player, which is already agreed with Leeds, but the fact Barcelona are looking highly likely to launch another bid for Rafinha to hijack Chelsea's deal. Obviously, Chelsea do have other options as well. Raheem Sterling, although I don't think, you know, the Rafinha interest is mutually exclusive to their interest in Sterling. I think both players will be targets for Thomas Tuchel. So yeah, I think, you know, being honest, I don't think the chances of Arsenal signing Rafinha are very high at the moment. They could move on to targets. We don't know which ones are on the agenda. But, you know, More positive news is that the offer for Lisandro Martinez is still being considered by Ajax. It's 35 million plus £5 million in add-ons, so worth a total package of 40 million. There's confidence that Martinez would be open to moving to the Emirates, but obviously the factor that could really jeopardise that is that Manchester United are really keen on exploring Martinez. Obviously, they have the how can I put it? The trump card up their sleeve in the fact that Martinez has worked with Erik ten Hag at Ajax, where they won the Eredivisie last season. Martinez was a key cog in Ten Hag's side. They have a very good relationship, you know, from what I've read in the media, quotes from the Dutch press from their time together last season. It's clear Ten Hag rates him very highly. He'd provide good competition for Harry Maguire. He can also play at left back and in defensive midfield. So, you know, the key will really be Ajax's stance on the sale. At the moment, they don't seemingly want to sell Martinez because they've also lost several big players this summer. Sebastian Haller to Borussia Dortmund, Mazraoui and Ryan Gravenberch have gone to Bayern Munich. So Ajax don't need the cash. They're very much just waiting to see what offers arrive on the table. And much like Leeds, you know, they'll be looking to encourage a bidding war with Martinez. You know, if they can get more than 40 million, closer to 45 million for the player, I think they will reluctantly agree to a sale. Arsenal will now just wait to see what happens with that second offer after their opening bid of £25 million was rejected. Just a line on Gabriel Jesus as well. Obviously, he underwent his medical on Wednesday in London. He was pictured at the Emirates Stadium in leaked photos on Thursday because he was doing all his signing videos for the club media. So I've been told that an announcement could arrive on Thursday or Friday. Obviously, by the time this video goes out, the announcement may already be there. But that's just a line on Jesus. No problems with that. Done deal. £45 million to Manchester City. Moving on now. So Arnaut Danjuma is a player that has obviously been linked very closely to West Ham in the past few days. Keep saying obviously, it's not a good trait of mine. But I spoke to a source this morning on the Danjuma deal, and it was very interesting information that was relayed to me. So as far as I understand it, West Ham's board want to push for a deal for Danjuma. They've held negotiations centred around the £38 million release clause that Danjuma has in his contract in Spain. And they would be willing to trigger that, but the kind of sticking point for them really is that David Moyes has reservations about signing Danjuma, not anything to do with the player, just simply that he wants to prioritise re-signing Jesse Lingard, who will become a free agent on Friday when his Manchester United contract expires. It's unclear whether West Ham have the financial leverage to do both deals. Obviously, keep saying obviously. Lingard is looking for a very lucrative proposal upon the expiry of his United deal. He's a free agent, so obviously there'll be no transfer fee involved, but big wages. West Ham have made an offer to him, but he's yet to respond. As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure of any other clubs in the fray. So, you know, West Ham are in a very strong negotiating position. He obviously flourished on loan at the club in the 2020-21 season in the second half of the campaign when he joined on loan. Scored 11 goals, assisted 4 times in the Premier League. Or 9 goals, I think it was actually, in 14 matches. Lingard wants to come back to West Ham. But it's a difficult one, really, because Danjuma, I think, would be, you know, a much better, not a better fit, but a really exciting fit on that left-hand side. Obviously, Yarmolenko's off. Nikola Vlasic is attracting loan interest from Torino in Italy. But it looks like player sales will have to materialise in order for West Ham to pursue both. I am told a bid for Armando Broja is still imminent. And Broja and Lingard are the 2 top targets agreed by Moyes. But as I mentioned, the board are very serious about signing Danjuma. Excuse me. Random hiccup there. And they would like to convince Moyes to sign the player because they feel like there's a real opportunity to be had there. Talk about David Moyes having doubts about Danjuma's temperament are utter nonsense. Totally made up. They're not true. I said Moyes has reservations about signing Danjuma. They're not reservations to do with Danjuma. It's more the finances West Ham have. As I mentioned, it's not clear whether West Ham can finance a deal for both. So at the moment, Moyes wants Lingard because he's a tried and trusted player who's worked under him before. That's not to say Danjuma may not be of interest to Moyes. Obviously, he's a very exciting player who dazzled in the Champions League last season with Villarreal. Excellent against Bayern Munich and Juventus. Scored, I think, 16 goals in all competitions. So it's one that could potentially materialise. I am told Danjuma would be prepared to wait to make a move. He's very happy at Villarreal. He's not actively going to be looking to get up and leave with the World Cup on the agenda later in the year. So that's the state of play with Danjuma. His entourage are very relaxed about his future. They're not actively looking to get him out of the club or anything like that. It's very much a case of seeing what offers arrives and they'll explore them. They're very open-minded about a return to the Premier League, but equally, they really enjoying. Danjuma's really enjoying his time in Spain, where he's become one of the best forwards in La Liga almost. It's weird to think that he was once considered, kind of an outcast at Bournemouth when he was on the bench and not really a regular starter under Eddie Howe when they got relegated. He's gone on to really great things at Villarreal. That was a great move for him. So he had that great season in the Championship when Bournemouth fell just short in the playoffs. So he's one to keep an eye on. Just moving on now to Leeds. I reported earlier in the week that Red Bull Salzburg had excused Mohamed Kamara from their pre-season training camp so that he could prioritise making a decision on his future. His head has turned by the Premier League interest that has kind of been bubbling away in the background. Now, as I understand it, I don't believe there's anything concrete at the moment. Leeds have been in direct contact with his representatives to declare their interest in a move. But they are juggling other targets as well. Obviously, Calvin Phillips' move to Manchester City is still in the pipeline. He's set to undergo a medical. The deal to sign Marc Roca from Bayern Munich is obviously terrible from me. Really terrible. Roca is believed to be the replacement for Calvin Phillips. But they are looking at other central midfield options, one of which is Tyler Adams of Red Bull Salzburg. But Kamara really fits that profile they're looking for. He's a busy midfielder who thrives off winning possession back. He's a tough tackler as well. He gets about the pitch. He can affect the game at both ends of the field, which is obviously so well suited to Jesse March's style of football and that Leeds way of playing. Marcelo Bielsa may have left the club, but we tend to consider Leeds as a team that like to counter-attack with speed, like to move the ball quickly around the pitch. Their games are very excited, high scoring. And that's why Kamara is of, such strong interest. The prices I was quoted in terms of discussion I had with a source was it would be 17 million to 25 million pounds in order to entice Salzburg into a sale. Obviously, said it again. Honestly, if I keep saying that, I'm going to have to close my channel down, I think. The relationship between Salzburg and Leeds is very strong. We've seen the business done already with Brendan Aronson and Rasmus Christensen, 2 deals that have already been signed off. There is also interest from Leeds in Junior Damu, who's a striker who looks like the next one on the conveyor belt from Salzburg. We've seen Haaland, Patson Daka, Dominic Szoboszlai, all these great forwards, Takumi Minamino, Hwang Hee-chan, that have been made in Salzburg that are, there's no kind of stopping that really. It looks set to rumble on. I feel like I'm missing one of them. A key Adeyemi from who's gone to Borussia Dortmund. So Kamara is one Leeds will continue to monitor, but as of now, I don't believe there's been any firm formal offers or negotiations with Salzburg. That's what club sources have told me. It's simply interest and one they will, look at and explore. But Kamara definitely on Leeds' shortlist and one they will continue to look at alongside the attacking potential replacements for Rafinha, the Otavios, the Gakpos. So yeah, big Forest update now. Covered extensively by Daniel Taylor of The Athletic. Great reporter, great journalist who obviously very well connected to Forest, and he's covered some important updates on that front that I'm about to echo now. I did reveal, though, that an opening offer was rejected by Liverpool for Nico Williams. Obviously, that affects Spurs' pursuit of Spence as well. But Nico Williams is the top wing-back target for Forest. So Liverpool rejected an opening offer worth £15 million, which is £11 million up front and £4 million in add-ons. They are expected to try again for him. There is also optimism a deal for Moussa Niakate of Nice. Not Konate, Moussa Niakate of Nice. Sorry, it's been a very long day and week. Of Mainz. He is the player of interest. The opening offer was obviously made to Mainz, but was rejected and considered lowball, which was obviously, oh my God, which was, really considered lowball. As I said, it quite infuriated Mainz, and, they threatened to walk away from negotiations and sell the French defender to another club. But Forest are still confident on that front. Dean Henderson will also be confirmed as a Forest player following his loan switch from Manchester United tomorrow. He's completed all the stuff and everything like that in terms of formal announcements, the paperwork, the announcement videos for the Forest media team, everything like that. Issa Kabore remains an interesting one, and one that could still be pursued. His future is being resolved with Manchester City as we speak. There is also interest from other French clubs in a loan deal. But at the moment, it's not a concrete option for Forest. Nico Williams is the primary right wing-back target, but Kabore is one that could fall into consideration if Liverpool do not alter their stance on Williams. They're kind of holding out for £20 million, which I personally feel is slightly excessive. Fulham are also interested, but Kevin Barbu of Wolfsburg is another name that they are currently negotiating for. Just some quick Burnley news now to finish up. I understand a £3.5 million deal has been agreed with Standard Liège for striker Jackson Maleka. He is one that has fallen on the radar of Vincent Kompany, who has made checks on him in Belgium. He spent last season on loan at Kasim Pasa in Turkish Super League. Scored 12 goals in 14 outings in the second half of last season after joining on loan from Standard Liège. And Burnley have seen off interest from Besiktas in the Democratic Republic of Congo forward. But he may not be the only new arrival from Liège as well, because midfielder Samuel Bastien is another player who looks close to moving to Turf Moor. Maleka underwent the first part of his medical in Belgium today. He's due to arrive in England to undergo the second part, but the move is subject to a work permit as well. Obviously, Kompany had some complications securing his work permit following his move from Anderlecht, where he managed last season, after stepping down at the end of last season. So Burnley really juggling those signings following the captures of Scott Twine. And there is another one that they brought in. Obviously, the two Manchester City lads as well expected to join. Harwood Bellis, is it? Harwood Bellis is joining on a loan deal, while CJ... sorry, this is really poor from me. Taylor Harwood Bellis is joining on loan from Manchester City, and CJ Egan Riley will join on a permanent deal from Manchester City. So that is all of the updates I've kind of got in a nutshell. Obviously, I will be back with more content and detail. I'm really sorry for the stuttering and the continued repetition of the word obviously today. It's been a very long start to the transfer window, long days for me, lots of updates. Obviously, I'm juggling all this information in my brain as well, but working on stuff as well on my Twitter account. So as always, I'd really appreciate if you hit the like button below and subscribe. It's important to me because it helps me keep my channel building and growing. I've seen the views go up recently, which is, really great for me. I really appreciate all the support so far. Head over to my Twitter at Ryan Taylor Sport to keep updated, and don't forget to read all the latest transfer news on Express Sport. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back again soon.